Hello there, my name is Ragnar, and this is my guide for Protection Paladin in Season 1 of Dragonflight for Mythic Plus. So, first of all, why would you want to play Protection Paladin? Protection Paladin is a very versatile tank, in my opinion, and it also has some of the highest damage out of the tanks, which is really important for timing keys. And my biggest reason for choosing Protection Paladin is because I really enjoy pugging, and I enjoy running with a variety of groups. I don't have a single group that I run with every key. Instead, I usually just use the LFG tool a lot, and helping have potential to carry is an important factor for me when choosing a tank. And Protection Paladin is the ultimate mama bird spec of the tanks. So if you enjoy being a difficult tank with a high skill ceiling, that also has potential for a lot of off healing and group support with your utility and stuff, then Protection Paladin is a great tank. If you're looking for something where you just focus in on your own thing and you focus in on your own survivability and you don't really care what's going on with the rest of the group, and that's not your job, and you're just kicking what you can kick and stuff, then Protection Paladin might not be the best choice for you. Some strengths about Protection Paladin, again, is its high damage output. It has good tanking against spells. You have the ability to block spells and also block periodic damage effects. You have good self-sustain with lots of healing, and also the option to do a lot of off-healing if you'd like. You have a lot of group utility that you bring in things like Blessing of Sacrifice, Lay on Hands, Bop, Spell Warding, Bubble Taunt. There's lots of different things that you bring to a group in that. Also, the Devotion Aura, bringing a 3% DR to the entire party, is nothing to forget about. Very helpful. Another big reason that Protection Paladin is a great choice is its abundance of kicks. You've got the most kicks of any tank, so you can, if you're really on it, you could shut down a whole pack by yourself with kicking one target and stunning another, and then focusing on another for your Avenger's Shield target. So it really is a great kick tank in a very kick-heavy meta with lots of casters. So first things first, let's go over the build. The build here, this is my main go-to build that I'm using for Mythic Plus. I've changed it around a bit. I just recently changed it today to include the speed talents here for Cavalier and Seasoned Warhorse. Protection Paladin is by far the slowest tank, even beyond Death Knight, I believe, because Death Knight now has 2 charges of Death's Advance and Wraithwalk and stuff. So you really, I've been okay without these, but I could definitely see how it would be a pain point. So I've changed my build here to include those talents. So let's quickly go over the Paladin tree. So going down this side, not really taking the opportunity to grab Auras of Swift Vengeance, because I'm assuming that you may be the only Paladin in the key, so you want to make sure that you have Devotion Aura. And then Blinding Light is a must-have for an AoE stop, which is very nice. I have Blessing of Freedom and Cleanse Toxins included by default in this build, because you could take those points out and throw them in something else if you don't necessarily need it for that dungeon, but more often than not, I found that I forget to check that, and I would rather have it and not need it than suddenly I was depending on it for a mechanic and I don't have it talented. So as you go down, we've got Cavalier and Seasoned Warhorse. Get your wings. On this side, this increases your damage quite a bit with Blessed Hammer, and you've also got your kick. And this is also your key going down this way to get Zealot's Paragon. So there's some other builds that grab Incandescence, which I've found only does like 1.5% of your overall damage. So I would say either go down this way if you're planning to get Zealot's Paragon with either Seal of Reprisal, or there's builds that grab it with Incandescence. But I don't really see the value in doing both. It's really just a key to go down this way. On this left side, there are a lot of options for group healing and stuff, and I'll talk about that with another build that I'll show you in just a moment. But for this standard build, we're not worrying about that. We're just focusing on more of the keys that we need. So going down the center, I've got my 1-minute sack, which I really like. It's a very easy way to help support your team with a 30% damage reduction, and you as a Protection Paladin are probably the best of the Paladin specs, because you're already going to be getting a ton of healing. You're planning on taking damage anyways, so throwing an extra bit from sack is not too bad, and it's being able to do that once every minute is very, very good if you can remember to do it. Divine Purpose gives you a lot of extra procs for Holy Power, which is very nice. Haste, we're very early in the season, and so haste is coveted, and so the more haste that we can get, the better. And then finally, Sanctified Wrath is very nice because it gives you an extra charge of judgment. Your judgment generates an extra holy power during Avenging Wrath, which is very helpful. So your rotation within wings is very, very smooth. On this left side, we've got Aspirations of Divinity, mainly just to get of Dusk and Dawn. So Dusk and Dawn is kind of an annoying playstyle to get used to at first, but when we talk about the rotation section, I'll show you that it really is not bad at all. There's some other content creators that I love and I honor and I respect, but they hate Dusk and Dawn, and I think that they're not giving it enough of a chance. It really is not that bad of a playstyle with a small adjustment in how you spend holy power, which we'll talk about that later. On the protection side, we've got Blessed Hammer is the go-to choice. It allows you to generate your holy power even while you're not in melee range, and even when you're not in combat, you can do it going into a pull, which is very, very valuable. Redoubt. And then on this side, we've got Holy Shield. With this specific build, I do go down into Consecrated Ground and Sanctuary. The reason I do that is, first of all, Consecrated Ground is your only tool other than Horse, which you need for other things. It's your only tool to kite. And so this build is designed assuming that you're not 100% sure who's going to be in your group. You don't have a Frost Mage or something like that to help you slow the pack. So this gives you a one talent ability that just it helps you kite anytime you need to. You just throw down Consecration and walk away. It's very, very nice. And then down here, Sanctuary gives you an additional 5% damage reduction while you're standing in Consecration. You're going to be wanting to stand in Consecration all the time, always, and so having that extra 5% damage reduction is very, very nice. Going down the middle here, we've got Ardent Defender. We've got Bulwark of Order, which is a big chunk of your healing. Every time your shield hits something, your Avenger's shield bounces around and hits something, it gives you an Absorb shield. Down this way, Tears Enforcer, this is what makes Divine Toll now an absolute nuke button. So anytime your Avenger's shield hits a target, it does a little AoE pop around it, hitting 5 extra targets. And that's for every single bounce. So you can imagine in Divine Toll where you're shooting 5 targets and each of those shields is bouncing several times. Every single bounce triggers this, and so this is going to be a big, big chunk of your overall damage. Resolute Defender, this is reducing the cooldown on your defensives here. You got your short defensive, Ardent Defender, which you're going to be using a lot, and then Divine Shield. You're going to be using that for bubble taunt, so the more that we can reduce that, the better. And then we've got Soaring Shield, which allows the Avenger Shield to bounce to 2 additional targets. There's a lot of synergy with Avenger Shield, so the more bounces we can get, the better. Looking at the center here, we got Wings. Now, this is a big flex point. I've got Avenging Wrath Might right now because I was running some lower keys. If you're running high keys, I would recommend Sentinel every time because it's such a strong ability going into a pull. It gives you 30% extra maximum health and 30% damage reduction going into a pull with Wings, and you can extend this buff the longer that you keep Wings up and the more holy power that you spend. So it has really good synergy with Zealot's Paragon. The holy power that you spend will increase this buff, and then also every time you use Hammer of Wrath and Judgment, you'll be extending your Wings. So it all works to extend Wings and extend this buff. Now, if you're looking to do maximum damage, you're just doing some carry keys or something like that, or maybe you trust your healer or you're using your defensives in another way, Avenging Wrath Might is going to be quite a bit more damage. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. If you find yourself dying a lot going into a pull, I recommend Sentinel. If you don't, and you want more damage, then go with Might. Guardian of Ancient Kings is fantastic. This is probably the best single point that you could spend, in my opinion. I love this little passive. So it only really needs 1 point. What it does is it's a proc. When you fall below 30% health, you get Guardian of Ancient Kings for 4 seconds. which is awesome. And increasing this to the second stack of this buff doesn't really do anything. So the second talent point just serves to do the cooldown reduction part. So each enemy hit by your shield, Avenger's Shield, reduces the cooldown of your Guardian of Ancient Kings, which is your big defensive 50% DR cooldown. A second talent point would make this so that it reduces it by 1 full second, but really you get the proc effect with just a single point, so that's mainly what I'm looking for. Eye of Tyr is a fantastic short cooldown damage reduction that can also serve to help you get some snap threat. Does a decent amount of damage, but the big thing is the 25% damage reduction, which is very similar to like a demoralizing shout on a warrior. Final Stand, this is an optional talent, but in my opinion, it's not optional. It's so good. The amount of times that this has saved a pull or saved my group is too many times to count. Some circumstances where it's an absolute godsend is, for example, on Algothar Academy, the tree boss that everybody hates. What I do to mop up the ads on the second set, when they burst forth and they start walking and attacking. The first time I group them all up with Divine Toll, and I use my Guardian of Ancient Kings to survive the damage. And then the second set, if there is one, I go ahead and use Bubble Taunt. And what that does is it gets instant aggro on all of them, and it makes me immune to all that nasty damage by that point in the pull where I've lost lust and cooldowns are running low and stuff like that. Healers struggling to keep up. It just makes it super easy. Gets a threat right away. Healer doesn't have to worry about me or anybody else getting slapped by the little ads. So very, very, very nice. And you'll find that this is getting reduced. The cooldown is pretty low. If we changed up our talents with Uther's Council and stuff like that, we could get this down to like a 2-minute cooldown. But as it is, it's like 2.5 or so, 2 minutes and 45 seconds between final stands, which is very nice. Bulwark of Righteous Fury is a big chunk of your damage. I would always get this from Mythic Plus. Non-negotiable, really. On this side, we've got Righteous Protector, which serves as cooldown reduction for your wings and your Guardian of Ancient Kings. This is what's going to help us have wings for most pulls. Not every pull. Divine Toll, this is one of the most fun abilities to push in the game, in my opinion. It's just Avenger's Shield Mania. It just hits 5 targets with your Avenger's Shield, and those bounce around to 5 targets. And this is what, combined with Tyr's Enforcer, is going to do a huge chunk of your damage, and is very good for getting threat on everything. The use case for this is different than it was in Shadowlands, and I'll talk about that once we get to the rotation. But you don't want to be using this to get initial threat on everything. You really want to be waiting until everything's in a tight ball and then use it. Down here, you've got Divine Resonance. This makes it so that after you use Divine Toll, you just get extra casts of Avenger's Shield. Every 5 seconds, it shoots out another one, which is very nice. It's a lot of extra free Divine Shields, and it's good for things like bosses and stuff like that. And the more Avenger's Shields, the better. There's a lot of synergy with Avenger's Shield. Optionally, you could change this to Quickened Invocations. This is going to make it so that your Seraphim and your Divine Toll are reduced. So, mainly your Divine Toll. So it makes it so it's a 45-second cooldown instead of a full minute. The only time I've been considering taking this is, like, for example, on the Tree Boss and Algothar. This would time out so that you can use Divine Toll for both sets. But instead, what I've started doing is I've used Divine Toll for the first set of burst forth ads, second set of swirlies, and then I just use Divine Shield, my bubble, for the second set, because Divine Toll isn't quite up and it's hard to mop them all up. So I've just stuck with Divine Resonance. On this side, real quick, this is an optional talent. You could either do Crusader's Resolve or you could do Strength and Adversity. I've seen this on both builds, or several different builds on Sub-Creation. But before I forget, all of these talents and everything, this is all data-based. If you're not familiar with the website subcreation.com, or .net, excuse me, this is a fantastic resource. So I'm just going to do a quick plug for this real quick. If you go to subcreation.net and then you look at Mythic Plus Season 1, you can see rankings for all of the different specs. So you can click right here on Protection Paladin, and it has, at a quick glance, aggregated data from all of the top logs of the top keys. anywhere between plus 11 keys to plus 21 keys. And so you can see things like talents. You can see what percentage of people are running certain talent builds, specs, what trinkets people are using, all kinds of stuff, enchants. So I use this as my primary way of, beyond just guides and stuff like that, this is my primary way of figuring out what all the best paladins are doing. It's a fantastic tool, and I recommend you use it right now. It's so good. But this talent right here, Crusader's Resolve, this gives you a passive DR, stacking up to 6%. Every time your Avenger's Shield hits somebody, it reduces the damage they deal to you by 2% for 10 seconds. So you could stack this up to 3 times for a 6% DR. Or you could do Strength and Adversity. I would mainly recommend this if you're grabbing this Inspiring Vanguard talent, because every time you parry, you have an additional chance to grant Grand Crusader. Grand Crusader is a passive for protection that when you avoid a melee attack or use Blessed Hammer, you have a chance to reset the cooldown on your Avenger's Shield and also gain a charge of Judgment. So there's some good synergy with that. Parry's not normally a big deal, but for that reason, it's pretty nice. Trying to think of anything else in this build. Strength of Conviction's really non-negotiable. It's so good. It increases your damage and healing by 20% for your Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory while you're standing in your consecration, which should be always. So it's a passive 20% damage and healing buff. And then this is also non-negotiable. It gives you 2 charges of Judgment. Now that Avenger's Shield does not generate Holy Power, you're a little Holy Power starved outside of Wings, and so having an extra charge of Judgment is huge. All right. One other thing, I want to show you another build. This week is Tyrannical, Grievous, and Bursting, and so it's the second week of the season, and healers are struggling, and so I've been theory crafting another build. This is my deadlift build. This is my Uber carry build. So this build sacrifices a good amount of damage, but what it does bring is a ton of off healing and group support. So it sacrifices Zealot's Paragon, so your Wings is not going to last nearly as long, unfortunately, but it does go deeper into this left side here. So it grabs Judgment of Light, which is a passive debuff on your target, making it so that every time somebody attacks it, they're getting healed for a little packet of damage. And this does a good amount of healing through the course of your dungeon. My last dungeon, it dealt 8% of my overall healing. Golden Path, this is a nice effect in a melee heavy meta. So what this does is it makes it so that your consecration passively heals 5 targets. And then Seal of Mercy is also going to target the lowest health ally for double its effect. So if it's just you, you're going to be getting healed for 884 instead of 442, and it just heals up your whole group that's standing in melee, which is very nice since melee is king this season so far. It also goes a little deeper here. After you spend 20 Holy Power, the next Word of Glory echoes at 30% effectiveness. This is helpful. And then you go a little bit deeper. Seal of Order further increases your damage and healing while you're maintaining Dawn, and then while you're in Dusk, it gives you 10% extra armor, and your Holy Power generating abilities cool down faster, so it kind of increases the speed at which you're generating Holy Power, which is nice. On the protection tree side, there are some changes. I did have to drop Consecrated Ground and Sanctuary here on this side. I grabbed Barricade of Faith for the extra block chance. I might mess with this a little bit more. I might consider taking these 2 points out and grabbing here. Still kind of messing around with this. But the big change on this side is we had to drop Divine Resonance here to have enough points. But we've grabbed Light of the Titans, which gives your Word of Glory an extra hot for percentage of the healing that it did. And then if you are ticking with a dot, it increases the healing of that effect by 50%, which is very strong. And this is a prerequisite to get this talent, which is the main staple of this build. Hand of the Protector makes it so that your Word of Glory effect that protection has, where it heals you more based on how low health you are, that applies to any target that you heal. So you get just as much benefit from healing, your low health healer as you would healing yourself when you're low health. It's almost like a lay on hands if somebody's really low health. It's very, very good. So this is just kind of the concept of the build. You could change it up a little bit. I might consider taking these. I like put a point here and grab this instead, and or I might take out Final Stand and grab Divine Resonance or something like that. So this is a little bit flexible, but the big thing is this right here and then this right here. So that's my deadlift build that I've been using this week in groups where I do not trust the healer, and it's awesome. I had a group with a Disc Priest, and I actually out healed the Disc Priest on every aspect of the entire dungeon. So it's it's a Disc Priest, so what can you say? But so that is the talent sections. One last thing on the talents. Flexible talents in both of the trees. So Inspiring Vanguard, Barricade of Faith, switching between these two, switching between Might and Sentinel, going down into Uther's Council, taking or not taking Final Stand. This whole side right here with the Consecrated Ground and the Sanctuary, those are all flexible, and I've seen builds that take any kind of combination of those. So those are all flexible on this side, and there's probably some that I'm forgetting. On this side, Judgment of Light is flexible. Seal of Might is flexible. A lot of builds go down here in Incandescence and grab this Speed and Avoidance talent, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of wiggle room in the Paladin tree, which feels awesome. And so you have a lot of opportunity to find what you like and what works for you. Okay, let's go over the stat weight. So stat weight for Paladin is Haste is king. Well, item level is king, sorry. Item level is first, because item level increases your strength, which has all kinds of benefits. It increases your damage and your armor and everything. So after that is Haste. Haste increases the speed at which you can generate holy power and maintain your uptime on Shield of the Righteous and stuff, which increases your survivability and your damage and all that. So Haste is king, and unfortunately my stat weight is all jacked up right now, but I'm going to be working on getting my Haste better. After Haste is Mastery. Mastery is very good for Paladin, Protection Paladin, because it increases your block chance, and then it also just increases your flat damage reduction that you have while you're standing in Consecration. So with my current level of Mastery without this talent, Sanctuary, I have about a 12% damage reduction while standing in Consecration, and then with it I have about a 17%. So that's just a flat damage reduction that you should pretty much always have, because you should always be in your Consecration, like your life depended on it. After that is Versatility. Versatility is kind of a nice stat because if you are out of your Consecration, you have to move and stuff. It's just a flat damage reduction and a flat damage increase, so that's pretty nice. And crit's bad, so try to avoid crit at all cost. And unfortunately, that's my highest stat right now, so I got some work to do on that. Let's go over the rotation. So your abilities real quick. Avenger's Shield is much lower on the totem pole as far as priority of your abilities. Mainly, let's assume that this target dummy pack right here is what I want to be attacking. It's a Mythic Plus pull. What I'll typically do is walking into a pull, I will be spamming my Blessed Hammer. Ideally, you want to be going into a pull with 4 Holy Power, because on the 5th Holy Power that you generate, you'll immediately activate your Dawn. Let's talk about Dusk and Dawn real quick before I start showing the full rotation. So Dusk and Dawn. Dawn increases your damage and healing by 5%. Dusk increases your damage reduction by 4%. And so the way that you get Dawn is you reach 5 Holy Power. So see here, when I reach 5 Holy Power, with my current weak aura setup, I'm tracking it right here with this little golden bar. It gives me that extra damage and healing buff, which is very nice. And then you get Dusk when you reach 0 holy power, or in other words, when you spend from 3 to 0. So you can see I have Dusk tracked right here. So your holy power spending rotation has a new extra level that you have to keep track of. So what you'll want to do is build to 5 and then spend, and that will drop you down to 2. And then we want to use something that will bump you up 1 holy power to 3, and then you spend. So it's always 5 spend, 3 spend, 5 spend, 3 spend. And you do that over and over and over again. So typically what I would do is I would come into a pack with as much as I could possibly get. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4. I would group everything up with Avenger's Shield, throw down Consecration, and then do another Blessed Hammer or a Judgment. Probably Judgment. Spend your Shield of the Righteous to jump you down to 2. And then you would use, not Judgment, because usually you'd be in your wings. I would use either Blessed Hammer, or you'll have Hammer of Wrath available because you will use wings on pull. So, and then you spend, and that will trigger your Dusk. From there on, you can be a little more loose with your spending, but I always try to go up to 5, spend, 3, spend, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3. And if you can get that rotation built into your subconscious, it's going to be, it's not going to be as bad as people make it out to be, and it's a big buff on you. So if you can get used to it, it's very, very handy. All right, so a typical pull, again, now let me just do it with wings and everything. So I would Avenger's Shield, Consecration. Ideally, I'd have more wings. I pop my trinket here. Now I've jacked up, and I spent before I got all the way up to 5. So 5, generate 1 more, 3, and here I keep going. At some point when they're all grouped up tight, you can throw down your Divine Toll, because the tither that they're clumped, each of your Avenger's Shield is going to do your Tears Enforcer damage on all the other targets. So you can see when I do that, it bounces around. It's a huge nuke of damage. You always want to be standing in your Consecration when you're doing your Shield of the Righteouses, because it will increase your damage and your healing that you do. You can see 5-3. This is a free charge, so I can just go ahead and use it. Let's do the rotation for a little bit. So right now I'm not spending. Building, 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 building. I have a lot of downtime on my Shield of the Righteous right now, so I might use like Ardent Defender or Eye of Tear. 5, spend. 3, spend. Just keep doing that. When you have gaps in your mitigation, you can use Eye of Tear, you can use your Ardent Defender. So a typical pull, my order of defensives would be, I would use Wings entering a pack, and a lot of times I would have Sentinel if it was a high key. So that will cover me for a long time. As soon as Wings ends, then I'll typically use Eye of Tear as my second line of defense. When Eye of Tear ends, then I will use Ardent Defender as my next line of defense. And beyond that, I'll probably start kiting, or the pack will be dead, or something like that. So that's my order. It's Wings, Eye of Tear, Ardent Defender. Now, Divine Shield and Guardian of Ancient Kings, I have specific points usually in the dungeon where I want them to definitely be up. So I pick those moments where I want it to be up, and then I kind of backtrack from there. I kind of say, do I have enough time for this to be back up? Which Guardian of Ancient Kings is going to be about 3 minutes-ish. And then Divine Shield is going to be about 2 minutes 45. I think if I have enough time for that, then I can go ahead and use it in advance before that pull. And otherwise, I have specific moments in dungeons where I've planned to use those, because those are really big. So that's a quick little messy rundown on the rotation. So when you're in Wings, be careful. Your Judgment will generate 2 holy power. You want to be using Shield of the Righteous after you've used Judgment on something, because it's going to increase the damage. But I try to prioritize the 5 and 3 spending to maintain my Dusk and Dawn over that. When you're in Wings, you can generate and spend pretty easily by using Judgment and then something else, and that will bring you up to 3, and then you can spend Judgment and then something else, and you can spend again. It's a really fluid rotation when you're in Wings, but when you're outside of Wings, it's a little bit more messy, and your uptime on Shield of the Righteous might suffer. So Avenger's Shield does not generate holy power, so I mainly use that to group something else. So if I'm fighting this pack, I might hit that with Avenger's Shield so it comes in. If it was casting, it'll stop. It'll be silenced for a couple seconds. That will bring it in. So that's a really helpful way to group up packs and stuff. If you need to group up a pack with Divine Toll, feel free. It's much better to have actually everything grouped up. So if there's a ton of casters and stuff like that, it's going to be a damage loss, but it's going to save you a big headache if you just use Divine Toll to help group things up. So there are moments when that's pretty necessary, and it's going to be very helpful for you. All right. Anything else we need to talk about? There's probably some stuff I'm forgetting, so if there's stuff that I'm forgetting, I will put it in the comments. But that is an overview on Protection Paladin in Season 1 of Dragonflight. Just a couple notes about me. I do stream on twitch.tv/RagnonGaming. It'll be linked in the description. I stream our raid. I'm a raid leader for our Mythic raiding team. We raid on Tuesday, Thursday, and Monday. Tuesday, Thursday, Monday. From 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central Time. So I'm always streaming those, and then I try to do some streams on off nights doing Mythic Plus and stuff. I might be running with guildies, or one of my passions is I love teaching. That's why I do videos like this. I'm a teacher. That's my job. I teach music, and so helping people develop and grow is a passion of mine. I don't claim to be the best at anything. I don't claim to be the top tier paladin, but I do push for excellence in everything that I do, and I have a desire to develop and grow people. So I do a lot of educational streams as well with commentary where I talk through keys and stuff like that. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to drop by. If you found this video, also a like and a subscribe would be very helpful. All those YouTube things. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.